So if Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy was to get an HD remake and a sequel, what would you expect from both?
Well, seeing as the mummy didn't get turned back into a Prince Tutankhamun at the end of that game, well, you can still play as the mummy, you can still light him on fire and do all that stuff, so I would just, puzzle-wise, when you're playing as the mummy, I would think more so just more ways you can damage that thing, more ways you can do puzzles with that. But since they kind of unite together, Sphinx and the mummy, I would say make it something where you can more freely switch between the two. Maybe the mummy has to do something in the background, then you'll switch to Sphinx after he, like, triggers a mechanism, and then you can go forward. I would make it more like a buddy platformer adventure game, rather than just, like, a chapter about Sphinx and a chapter about Mummy. Maybe even a co-op thing would be really cool. Asymmetrical co-op, where one person's the Mummy and they're on one side of the wall doing a bunch of stuff, and the other person's the Sphinx where they're doing more of the combat stuff. I think something like that for a sequel of that game could be super duper fun.
You've been asked to make a fighting game where the characters are all from RPG Maker games. Which 3 characters would you think to add first?
Definitely Brad Armstrong, because he's kind of known as a martial artist. I would have Matasuki from Yume Nikki. She could use all of her effects. And then the batter from Off, just because he's also incredibly iconic. And, you know, I think those are also 3 extremely iconic characters that would just get people interested in it.
I was wondering what your take is on the Kirby franchise.
I used to love the Kirby games when I was a kid, but I feel like as I got older, I just had less interest in it. It's not a series I have no interest in. I mean, like, I got the new one on Switch, but I mean, I don't know, I feel like Kirby games are pretty hit and miss nowadays. Like, that new one on Switch was just kind of whatever. I heard some people say Triple Deluxe was pretty whatever, but I've also heard people say Planet Robobot was super duper cool. I wouldn't know personally because I have not played the 3DS ones. The last one I really liked was the Wii one, Return to Dreamland. But yeah, I feel like Kirby games, I have a hard time just playing every single one because they're all kind of samey. Like, they all control the same way, they all have the same power-ups, you know, exact same level design. I don't really think Kirby has really introduced any game-changing brand new ideas in a long time, and I think if I'm going to be really interested in that series again, that's what they're gonna have to do. Or make Kirby Air Ride 2!
Out of all the videos and reviews you've done, which of them would you say you're the most proud of?
Again, I always say this, definitely Bubsy 3D, just because getting through that game was incredibly difficult, and I managed to do it. Managed to be the first person to give a thorough review showing the whole thing, and I'm still proud of that. I know I brag about that all the time, but honestly, I think I earned the bragging rights on that one.
What would you recommend as someone's first horror game?
Probably Silent Hill 2. I think the Silent Hill series is a good series to start with because it's kind of the crown jewel of all survival horror games, at least in my opinion. 2 is definitely the easiest to get into. It's arguably the best one. It definitely has the most interesting story, and I think it's one of the lesser scarier ones. It's arguably the most disturbing, but I don't think it's quite as scary just gameplay, like dealing with enemies and dealing with the darkness. I don't think that's quite as nerve-wracking as Silent Hill 1, 3, and 4. And also, 1, 3, and 4 kind of have obstacles early on that, as somebody that's not quite familiar or used to survival horror games yet, you might have a really hard time getting through there, while 2, I think, just has a really smooth introduction. So yeah, Silent Hill 2, all the way.
If there is one game company or developer who could make Nitro Rad game, who would it be and why?
I would just get that core Nintendo Mario team to make a platformer, because, like, that's my favorite games ever have all been from that team, so yeah, that one.
As someone who's working on a 3D platform right now, what specifically do you look for in how a player controls in those types of games?
Personally, and I know this is not something that a lot of games do, really only Mario games do this, but I like very physics-based movesets where it's about flinging yourself somewhere, not with 100% certainty that you will make that jump. A lot of games, and not to knock these games because these games have found other ways to make them very interesting and fun, but when it comes just to the raw challenge of platforming, I feel like having a double jump, a way just to cancel all your momentum and just make it every time, I feel that kind of ruins that in a bit, where like in Mario 64, the moves you have is like a dive, or you can overshoot something with a dive if you're not good with it. So yeah, definitely a physics-based moveset.
What music or songs are most immersive to you? Like you can close your eyes and picture yourself in that area where the music's being played.
Good recent example is the save room music from Resident Evil 7. Like if I close my eyes and listen to that music, I can see the laundry room, I can see the cassette tape recorder. that one really brings me to that area.
What was your favorite joke to work on in the series, like throughout the entire show? My favorite joke had to be Wrong Whiplash.
Oh, I've done a lot of jokes. I really like the ones that involve Brady, like the Who Killed Brady joke from Eric Andre. Eric Andre is one of my favorite shows. I really liked having a callback to that show, and having Brady there as Hannibal I think was really funny too. So for now I'd say that one, the Who Killed Brady joke. I really like that one.
What do you think of Jackson Pollock, the painter?
Never heard of him.
Out of all of the B-grade 3D platformers that you reviewed, which two would you say are your favorite and that you could recommend the most?
Oh my god, like you have them all too, dude. Oh my god. If we're saying B-grade platformers, let's get rid of like the big published ones, like anything published directly by Microsoft, so no Blinks or Voodoo Vince. Whiplash is one of my favorites. It gets really like, what the frick do I do by the end of it when they try to make it a Metroidvania, but other than that, I actually really like that game. That game was really fun. Other than that... Oh, I see you got a copy of Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy. If we're counting that as a platformer, I think it's more of an adventure game, but yeah, that one for sure. That is my favorite game that I've reviewed on this channel that I did not know about before reviewing. That was the first time I reviewed a game blind, where like I was actually excited to come home from work to play it some more. So yeah, Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy, that game is really good.
What are your top 5 favorite anime of all time?
This is always subject to change because my tastes change as I get older, but for now I'd say Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, Serial Experiments Lain, Neon Genesis Evangelion, Mob Psycho 100, and then currently My Hero Academia.
What's your favorite video that you produced?
Oops, already answered this one, but yeah, still, Mario Sunshine.
Just wondering what your favorite glitch or exploit was from any 2D or 3D platformer.
This one, just because it was a lifesaver for when I was making this video, the backwards long jumping up the staircase in Mario 64, that was so helpful for me because when I played through that game, I forgot to get footage of the endless staircase. I just got enough stars to get up it, and I went up it without triggering actually like it being endless and getting that creepy music. And I really wanted to talk about that because it scared me so much as a kid, and I didn't have footage, so I was like, oh my god, my only other save file only has 20 stars, and I was like, oh wait, I can backwards long jump up the staircase and clip through that door, and then I can do it. So it just saved me so much time using that glitch just to get footage of that.
I originally followed you regarding your counter-argument against Jimmy Wetzel with the Yokai Watch games. So with that in mind, I would like to ask you what your favorite yokai of each of the 8 main tribes is, excluding Wicked, Hagure, and Enma. And if you could exclude the Nyans, that'd be great.
Oh, I like the Nyans though. Tomyon's my favorite, but my memory's kind of rusty because I haven't played Yokai Watch in like 2 years. And I've only really played the first one, and I only watched like the first season of the show. But yeah, I wrote down, I had to look them up to remember their names, I wrote them all down. I like Bushido a lot. This is more so for like physical appearance than like performance in the game. But Bushido's cool, I like Not So Long. Noe was hilarious in the TV show, so I love Noe. Usapion or USA Pion, the otter guy with the rabbit costume, I think he's really cool. Koma-san's a classic. Palisol. Mangy Mutt was my favorite character in the show. His scenarios were all hilarious. And then Indy Jaws, because he's a cowboy shark man, and that is like the coolest shit ever.
What are your favorite fighting games, and which character do you man in those games?
Like I said, I'm just not really that much into fighters. The only fighting game I've played a lot of is Smash Bros, and I don't really have a main in Smash Bros as much as there's like 7 characters I really love to play as. Those characters would be Lucario, Olimar, Lucas, Shulk, Mega Man, Mario, and Falco. I couldn't remember, I had to look at my amiibos for a second to remember there, but yeah, those ones.
Did you ever hear of Drawn to Life?
Literally the only thing I've ever seen that game from was Pro Jared used to have a series he did for ScrewAttack.com called Name Tags, where he used to work at a game store, and there was a part when they're like, yeah, this new game called Drawn to Life, you can draw your own character, and Jared was like, you're just gonna draw a dick, aren't you? And the other guy was like, yeah. Other than that, I've never actually seen what that game like is.
Will there ever be a Nitro Rad DVD like AVGen did, for example?
Probably not. Firstly, because I don't know the legality of that. Like, I'm using copyrighted game footage and music. I don't know if it's legal to sell that. I don't know how AVGN like gets away with that. I don't know what they do. I don't know what that process is like. Secondly, I don't know how to produce Blu-rays at all. That'd be something I'd have to figure out. But I mean, if I ever did do a Blu-ray, it would be for like original films that I made, not like game reviews. I don't really see the point of putting a video game review on a Blu-ray when you have it all on YouTube, but I don't know. That's just me, I guess.
What is your most memorable moment about your entire YouTube career thus far?
At least in recent memory, I guess doing that Mario series. That was a blast, replaying every 3D Mario game and really like digesting and trying to figure out things that I could criticize about them, because, you know, I'm not super critical of the things I've played before, obviously. I just play them and have fun. But like when I was going through the Mario games, even like in the best ones like Mario Galaxy, I was able to find things to pick apart and criticize, and I think that was a really interesting experience.
When reviewing a platformer, are there any aspects that can make or break the game's experience for you?
Yes, combat! That is a big one that I see a lot of platformers get wrong. In my opinion, I don't think a platformer should have a huge focus on combat, and there's a difference between having enemies that you can use a punch move to take out, because even Mario 64 has that. There's a difference between that and then having to stay in the same room with the single enemy for 10 minutes and having to engage in combat with it. I do not like that. I do not like... Some of these games have button combos. Like, it's like fighting game moves. Like, Kaya Dark Lineage had button combos. Rough Trigger had button combos. I'm like, what is this? I don't want to do this. Like, I hate fighting games. That's why I like platformers, you know? That and like just trying to shoehorn in other genres, like Haven was really bad for that, putting in vehicle and turret segments. I feel like focus. You really need to focus on the one core thing that makes your game, and if you spin off into something like combat, you need to make it work in the context of that game. Ratchet and Clank and Rayman have been really good at that because the combat is all projectile based, and you're using the same moves you use for platforming to dodge those projectiles, to do combat. You're still jumping around. It's still a platformer in a way. So yeah, that's a big thing, combat, but in general just kind of straying away from a sort of focus.
Do you have any favourite licensed video games? Not necessarily ones based on movies, but ones based on different properties?
Licensed games? Since we're throwing movies out of the window, let's go with TV shows. My favorite TV show based game as a kid was Jimmy Neutron Attack of the Twonkies. Like, I remember that holding up, like, pretty alright, but just the fact that you could explore Retroville, you could walk into Jimmy's house and fully explore everything, because it was a 3D TV show. You kind of saw everything in a 3D environment, and being able to explore that environment was super duper cool.
What are your top 10 favorite games?
Well, that's a hard question to answer because, like, it's hard to pick favorites. I don't know if I really have 10 concise favorite games. Like, that's always subject to change, especially as I get older. My tastes change, like I've said, especially in the middle of a Q&A video, but let's just pick 10 of my favorites in no particular order. I wrote these down. Let's go with Majora's Mask, Metal Gear Solid 3, Deus Ex Human Revolution, Pikmin 2, Super Mario Sunshine, Chrono Trigger, LA Noire, Star Tropics, Mega Man 9. A lot of people are gonna hate me for this last one, but I don't care because I still love this game a lot. Sonic Adventure 2. Fight me.
Will you let us know if you go to any future con or conventions?
I don't think I would ever make like an update video on the channel for something like that, but I would always tweet about it. Follow me on Twitter for that stuff. If I'm at a con, I'm gonna be tweeting about it, so check for that there, I guess.
Yeah, so you like these Vocaloid games shits? Well, you like them at all?
Not really. I just don't really have any interest in Vocaloid or anything like that.
What equipment do you use?
Equipment do you use? Camera and microphone.
I already talked about the lighting equipment, so let's talk about audio and video. My microphone is a Samson C01U condenser mic. It's just a USB microphone. It's been pretty good to me all these years. I've also got pop filter that I use. I just kind of, you just screw it on the desk and put it there. I just kind of use that every time I record audio. My camera is a Panasonic Lumix GH3. I film Nitro Rad on a 20mm lens, but I also have a couple of other lenses I got. This is my 35 to 100mm zoom lens. This one is the most expensive one. 35 to 100. That's a really good lens. And then I got two Olympus lenses. I got a 45mm, which I use for close-ups of controllers and stuff. Really pretty lens. And then I also got a 12mm Olympus for like very wide stuff. I don't really use this for Nitro Rad. It's more so for Garanicore. I use this one. As far as game recording equipment I have an Elgato 60, which is kind of bolstered in there. I'm not going to be able to get that out. I have it like screwed into a spot, just so it's always in the same spot. But for upscaling footage, I have an RGB Mini, aka the Framemeister. Big shout out to My Life in Gaming. If you want to figure out how to get the best quality out of your consoles, check out that channel, My Life in Gaming. If it weren't for them, I wouldn't know about this thing. This thing is a wizard. All my footage looks really crisp, like it almost looks like it's being played off an emulator. But no, when I'm playing Croc or when I'm playing Akuji the Heartless, I'm playing anything, I'm playing it off of an actual PS1 run through this thing, and it just looks that good.
What do you think about the Ratchet & Clank games?
I played about half of them. I beat 1, I beat Tools of Destruction, I beat A Crack in Time, and I beat the reboots. That's like, what, 4 of 9 if you count Deadlocked and Clank, which I haven't played. I played a little bit of 2, didn't really get super far into it. I really hated the airplane segments, or the spaceship segments, where you're like shooting down other planes or ships or whatever. That just killed that game for me. Again, like, I really like games to be concise with one genre, and I hate it when they're like, oh, here's a vehicle segment that I don't want to do. I always hate it when the Ratchet & Clank games do that, but other than that, like, those games are pretty good. I find they're all kind of samey, though. Like, there's 7 main entries, and they all play exactly the same. Yeah, I don't think that's a game that needed 7 entries. Could have been a trilogy, I think. I think there could have been 1 PS3 one, I think it could have been 1 PS4 one, there could have been 1 PS2 one, maybe 2 PS2 ones. I don't know. I think there's too many of those games, and they're all kind of the same thing, but they're still good, is what I'm saying.
What would be some of your favorite PlayStation games from the PlayStation 1 all the way up to the current PlayStation 4?
Alright, let's pick one per console to make this a little easier, and I'll also go just exclusives. Like, at the time, it was only on that console. It might be on something else now, but at the time, it was just on that. So, Silent Hill 1 for PS1, I should have put that in my top 10. Yeah, I like that game more than some of those games I listed off. Again, it's hard to pick 10 because I don't even know. But yeah, Silent Hill 1 for the PS1. PS2, I'd go with Metal Gear Solid 3. PS3, oh, most PS3 games I liked were all third-party. Probably Infamous, honestly. I really liked that game when I was younger. And then PS4, Bloodborne, hands down.
If you had to choose between being in the art gallery from Eve, the house from Mad Father, and the school from Messiah, where would you choose to be and why?
Why do you people ask me these things? I don't want to be any of there. Probably the art gallery. I mean, you got, like, paintings and a little girl coming after you. Like, I'm pretty sure I could handle that. Mad Doctor with a chainsaw? No. A cursed school? No. I ain't surviving either of those places, but I could probably get out of the art gallery. That's probably the least threatening of those 3, so I guess I go with that one. Why do you do this to me?
Do you have a Discord server for your fans?
Yeah, I've already got one. Like I said in part 1 of the Q&A, it's just locked down. If you want the link, just tweet at me or email me.
What is your favorite game of all time, if you have one?
I don't know. It's too hard to pick favorites. If I pick one right now, I'll just say Majora's Mask. But again, that's always changing.
How did you discover Hotel Dusk?
When I was high school, I literally saw it at Best Buy and it was like $5. I'm like, that looks cool, and I bought it. That's kind of back when I was getting into the Professor Layton series. I wanted to play like more puzzle and story-driven DS games, and Hotel Dusk. I saw that at Best Buy. I looked at the back. I'm like, oh, this looks like what I'm looking for right now. I bought it, and I loved it.
What's your all-time favorite indie horror game?
Dread Out. It was like I think it's Taiwanese, I think. It's an indie game from somewhere in Asia where you are a young girl, and it's kind of like Fatal Frame, except like instead of the camera, you have like a phone, and it's a little bit different. That game is freaking terrifying. I feel like there's a lot of parts of it I thought were kind of dull, but overall, I did really like it, so yeah, Dread Out.
What do you think about your fan base? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it any different than what you thought it would be whenever you was a smaller channel?
I don't know. I don't really keep tabs on everybody that watches my videos based on the comments. Generally, people that have been subscribed to me have been pretty nice to not just me, but one another. I don't really see, like, petty fights in the comment section of my channel a lot. If anyone initiates that, I usually delete it though, so I don't see that going anywhere, because I just hate people just being mean and rude to each other. I try not to have a space where that can happen. Honestly though, it is a little disheartening when I like pour my heart and soul into a video. I bust my ass off for a week to get a video out, and then like the first 100 comments on the video is just, hey, can you review this? It's like, oh, so you don't care about the thing I just spent a week making at all. I mean, it is easy to complain about that, but it is a very vocal minority. It's only like the first bit of comments I get every video. Other than that, I feel like people watch my stuff and pretty great, pretty good to me.
If there was some sort of video game rapture that made it so there were no more 3D platformers or RPG Maker games, what would you switch to mainly reviewing?
If none of those games existed, I would just be doing horror games, because I do them around the Halloween season, and if like our platformers, RPG Maker games didn't exist, that's what I would do year round, is just horror games. But I feel like I would probably run out of those quickly, because there's not as many of those as platformers, I think.
What is your most memorable childhood memory?
For me, it was rediscovering Star Tropics in middle school. I remember, like, not knowing what that game was called. my whole life because I was so young I didn't know how to read when I played that. And when I saw it added to the Virtual Console, like I lost my mind. I ran to the store, I bought a Wii Points card just to get it. I didn't even have internet at the time, so like I had to bring my Wii down to a friend's house and hook it up to his TV and like download Star Tropics. It was, yeah, that, man.
Has there been a game or games that you have chosen for one reason or another not to review on your show? Or is everything fair game?
A big one is the Ratchet & Clank games. I got so many people that want me to review all the Ratchet & Clank games, but there's 9 of those games. And then there's more on top of that, because there's like the PSP ones and like the standalone downloadable ones. It would just take way too long to do it. We're talking like half a year of just Ratchet & Clank, and Ratchet & Clank isn't important enough to me to warrant half a year of nothing but that. Like Mario, that's my favorite series ever, so of course I would do that. It's also like the most popular and well-known platformer series of all time, but Ratchet & Clank is kind of like, oh yeah, that's just a good one that people know, but it's just, I'm not dedicating half a year to that.
What's your favorite breakfast cereal?
I haven't eaten cereal in years because like cereal is really bad for you. It's super sugary and it's just I've been trying to eat better. Like I eat spinach and fruit for breakfast every morning now. But yeah, I used to eat a lot of, I think it was like this President's Choice brand, like no-name brand, this like oat cluster stuff with raisins in it. My dad still gets it. I have no idea what it's called, but I used to eat that a lot.
Have you ever dabbled into speedrunning?
I accidentally skipped this one when I was recording on camera, so I'm just gonna use the mic for this one, so audio only for this one, I guess. No, I've never seriously tried to get into speedrunning. I've never really tried to speedrun a game, but I've been interested in like the glitches they use, trying to figure out how to do some of that stuff is kind of fun. My friend who used to be a Majora's Mask speedrunner showed me how to do a lot of the Majora's Mask stuff, so that's how I know how to do stuff like bomb hovering and stuff like that.
If you could go anywhere in the world for a vacation, where would you go?
Definitely Egypt or Rome. I really want to see the pyramids in person someday, and I really want to see the Colosseum in person someday. You know, amongst other ancient structures that are still standing that I can't quite remember the names to, but I mean, there's just so much in those places I want to see, where like, any place like Italy, I can only think of like one thing I want to see, so definitely one of those 2 places.
Out of all the RPG Maker games you reviewed, which one were your favorites?
I don't know, maybe Heartbeat. That game has really high production value, really adorable artwork. I love the way the characters are designed in that game. There's a lot to do in it too. That's coming out soon, I think, so check out for that.
What's the most interesting or your favorite video game mechanic you've ever encountered?
Oh, I was gonna list some stage stuff, but like I don't think that's me. After that last guy asked that like difference between a gimmick and mechanic question, I don't think what I was about to say is a mechanic. I think that's like a gimmick. I was gonna say the beat blocks from Mario Galaxy and then how they were reintroduced into Celeste. I thought that was awesome, but I don't think that's a mechanic, I think it's a gimmick. So mechanic, I think wall jumping has always been one of my favorites. Mario 64 pioneered it, and then you even see it used in like 2D games like Super Meat Boy and Celeste. I love me a good wall jump.
If you have any favorite like seasonal kind of games, like games you like to play during the summer or the Halloween season.
Whether it's like summer, fall, or winter, like the season doesn't really make me want to play a certain type of game, but Halloween season, I definitely want to play the horror games then, so I guess that's an answer.
Best Pixar movie. Go.
This probably is a fairly unpopular opinion, but my favorite Pixar movie has always been Ratatouille.
How do you go about writing your script? What's your process? How do you do that?
I don't know why everyone thinks there's like a magical process. I just write it. I guess there is kind of like a thing at the beginning. I always try to write the intro like it's introducing a subject rather than just going right into the game. I kind of talk about something that was integral to that game. Like Rascal, I talk about tank controls and how like games evolved out of that and some games didn't, and then that brought me to Rascal. I try to start a video with that. That is honestly the hardest thing. I'm so bad at thinking of how to start a video because I try to do it that way. That's the hardest part for writing. But like other than that, it's just I just write about everything. I just write about the game until I'm done. That's pretty much it.
What is your favorite game, and I don't know, what are some of the memories you had with that game?
Memories with one of my favorite games, I'll go with Mario Sunshine because I remember the guidebook for that game, my neighbor had it. It said, a secret shine sprite, and that was it, and then it talked about like the shirt after that, and I was like, wait, what? There's a secret shine sprite? And I used to have this recurring dream about getting the 121st shine sprite, and one dream I had more than once, the way I got it is, you know the light you look up to get to Noki Bay or Naki Bay or whatever it's called. I would look not up at the sun but above the dolphin, and I would squirt water, and then there would be like an invisible shine sprite that would like appear, just like the one in the sand or the one that you look at the sun to spray water at what is it, Pianta Village. I had a dream where I would do that, and I would try doing it in the game, it would never work. That's something I remember doing so much as a kid. That and trying to figure out what that book in Naki Bay was, like the book in the bottle. I remember Googling the crap out of that, and no one had a definitive answer to it, and I just remember wondering what that was for. That was super interesting to me as a kid.
What type of cartoons do you watch?
When I was a kid, I always liked the cartoons that dealt with more mature themes, like Teen Titans. I'm not watching like shows for teens. I'm watching shows for kids that just dealt with that kind of stuff. I love Digimon Tamers for that. There's a show called Daigata Defenders that was only in Canada that had some stuff like that I really liked. Delilah and Julius had some stuff like that. Again, another Canadian cartoon. I don't think the animation of that show holds up, but there's some like more mature tones in that show that really gripped me when I was in elementary school.
What are your least favorite genres?
Fighting games, RTS games, strategy RPGs, stuff like that I just can't get into.
Is there a game that's so bad or made so boring you would never review? You did play Bub's 3D after all.
Nothing is off limits. A game being horrible or boring will never stop me from reviewing it. If it's a piece of history, if there's a story to tell, I'd like to be the one to tell that story.
Have you ever played any online games that are dead now, where you miss the game/community?
The only online game I really played a lot of was Metal Gear Solid 4's Metal Gear Online, and I wasn't super into it. It's just one summer, I had nothing to do, and I just played that all the time. But if there's one online game I really miss that you cannot play anymore, it was Robot Rage. It was a freeware 3D, I don't know if it was a Flash game, it was a freeware 3D PvP game on miniclip.com where you got a robot and you could paint it whatever you wanted, and you could I would just draw faces, I would draw Sonic characters on it. Yeah, I had one where I drew Sonic on it. And you just have a robot that's just basically a body with 4 wheels, and you put spikes on the front or you put an axe. That's pretty much all you can afford when you start. But as you beat more opponents, you get more money, and you can use that money to make your robot bigger and better and more weapons and stuff. And then you go up the ranks and you fight people who are better. It was all PvP. You're all playing against real people. I used to play that religiously when I was in elementary school. And there's actually a team of people bringing it back. It's called Robot Rage Reborn. Check it out.
What is your favorite movie of all time?
Favorite movie, and why?
Probably The Departed. I've watched that movie so many times, and it does not get old to me.
What makes you decide about showing the ending of a game in one of your reviews?
That's a good question. There was no rhyme or reason to whether or not I did at first. Like in some of the Silent Hill videos, I just spoil the endings, and I don't have a spoiler warning. Nowadays, I don't have a spoiler warning if it's a game that's not super heavy on plot, or the plot is just not what you're playing it for, like Akuji the Heartless. Who cares about the plot of that game? If it's a game no one's gonna care about the plot of this, or Dr. Muto, people aren't gonna care if I spoil the ending to that. Otherwise, I will put a spoiler warning if I feel like it's a game that it's more story driven, and people might want to not know what that ending is, and if knowing the ending will affect how you feel about playing through the story, then I'll put a spoiler warning, or I'll just not talk about it, period. Sometimes I feel like I have to talk about it, when I did Kaya, Sphinx, and Haven. All those 3 games end on a cliffhanger that was never followed up on, and that's kind of what linked those 3 games together, so of course I had to talk about it there. But yeah, I guess in short, it depends on how much knowing the ending would affect how you play that game, whether or not I feel the story not really matters, if I feel people will care about it, and if I want to discuss it yes or no regardless, then I'll put a spoiler warning.
What is your opinion on trolls, edgelords, those folk?
Trolls, I don't pay any attention to them. They're just trying to get a reaction out of people, and I think the best thing you can do is ignore them and not give them the reaction they want.
What is the weirdest game you've played?
I mean, the obvious answer is probably just Yuminiki fan games and LSD Dream Emulator, because they're all based on dreams, and dreams are weird. So I guess probably that. I don't think I've played anything more bizarre and surreal than that. Hylix is one of the weirdest games I've played. Dujano is pretty weird, but I mean, that's why I love them, right?
Is lack of money always an issue when you were between 12 and 19 years old?
Was procrastination an issue when I was between 12 and 19? Yeah, I used to procrastinate a lot when I was in school. I would leave homework to the last second. I don't know. It's just because it was me doing something I didn't care about, and I'm I don't care about doing this. A lot of times in high school, I straight up wouldn't do my homework. I would get as much of it done as I can, in my free time in class, and then I would try to finish as much as I can in the morning while I'm waiting for class to start. I would do that a lot. If it ever actually affected my grades, I would probably smarten up, but it never became a problem. So I guess, yeah, I did procrastinate, but not to the point where, like, it affected my grades or anything like that.
Will you ever talk about Flash games on your channel?
Probably not. I'd rather focus on just platformers and RPG Maker games like I've been doing.
Which game, in your opinion, deserves a sequel? An old game that still hasn't got a sequel that deserves a sequel?
Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy. There's so much more they could do with that game, and especially because it ends on a cliffhanger. THQ Nordic, or whoever owns that, please make Sphinx 2. Come on, guys, what are you doing?
People always have said you are the coolest kid in your street. So, is this just a catchphrase to introduce you, or is there some story behind it?
No, there's no story or anything behind that. I literally just say it because it's like a stupid thing to say. That's literally it.
What is the best video game adaptation?
Probably the Witcher series. Like, that is an adaptation of a novel series, and they captured the world that that author penned so freaking well.
You have an amiibo collection? How many do you have?
Yeah, these are pretty much all the amiibos I have, mostly just the Smash Bros. Ones. At one point, I actually had every Smash Bros. Amiibo, but then I had a complete collection. I was like, okay, I don't know why I did this, and then I just sold all the ones I didn't really care about. I still have the characters I really like, either to play as or characters I think are cool. I got some other amiibos. I got the Shovel Knight one, the Gold Mario, some couple of Animal Crossing ones. I got that Twilight Princess one, and I got some Splatoon ones.
You guys should see Brady's collection, though. He has every single amiibo, like literally every single one, except the 2 Shadow Skylanders. He doesn't have the Bowser one or the Donkey Kong one, like the dark versions of them. He has like the normal version, but he doesn't have those 2. If somebody has those and they don't want them, please mail them to Brady. Or mail them to my P.O. box so I can give them to Brady, because, like, I really want to see that guy just finally have the complete collection. That'd be awesome.
Do you have a favorite generation of consoles or games?
GameCube, PS2, Xbox. I feel like that was the era where there was a lot of those, like, quirky, weirder Japanese passion projects, you know. You saw the Silent Hills, you saw the Icos, you saw stuff like Tulips, Mr. Mosquito. You don't see, like, those weirder games anymore. Nowadays, it's just stuff that's safe to sell. You got all your Ubisoft games, all your Nintendo games. They only really make stuff they know is going to sell, and back then you could be a little more experimental, and there's just so much stuff from back then that's like you wouldn't see now.
What would happen if you ran out of 3D platformers to review?
I don't know if that'll ever happen, at least not for like 20 years. Like, there's a lot of 3D platformers. Like, you have no idea. Like, my back catalog of stuff I'm planning to review is so ridiculously long. I don't think it's gonna happen. But if it did, I would guess I would just find something else to review. I don't know.
Very into RPG Maker games. Have you ever tried to make one yourself?
Have you ever made an RPG Maker game?
The second guy here told me he was in a bicycle accident, which is why he's got like the... I hope you're doing okay, man. But yeah, to answer your guys' question, no, I've never seriously tried to make an RPG Maker game. I've opened RPG Maker before, and I've looked at it, and I couldn't figure out how to do anything. I've done that probably 3 times, but I've never really seriously tried.
Nitro Rad, what's your favorite snack?
I never, like, eat snack food as snacks. I eat like meal food as snacks. Like, if I want a snack, I'll go downstairs, I'll like fry an egg and make like an egg and spinach sandwich.
What was your opinion on WarioWare Gold, and is it worth the $40?
Yeah, dude, it is really good. I've been playing it non-stop. Like, the story is short, but it is in every WarioWare game, but they have like a long list of missions you can do, and I've been just like whittling through them. Like, it's pretty much replaced Akinator as my bathroom game. Like, every time I go take a dump, I'm just playing WarioWare. I still haven't played God of War because I'm still playing WarioWare. Like, I can't put it down. It's extremely good. So absolutely worth full price.
If you had to create a new mascot character for a new platformer game, how would you do it?
Like I've said, I've always really liked the physics-based platformers, so I would want to create a character that you could do a lot with physics-wise, so I always had an idea for a game where you played as a balloon animal, because a balloon is, you know, it's bouncy, it floats in the air a little bit, but you can fill a balloon with different things to change its properties. So, like, you fill it with water, it's now a water balloon. You could fill it with concrete to make it heavy and sink underwater, stuff like that. As far as what the character would look like, you know, just a balloon animal, generic. I'll put a picture, like something like that.
What video game has had a story that's been really impactful on you? You really enjoyed it and you thought it was well put together?
Lisa the Painful RPG. That story is so freaking good, man.
Do you think of games as entertainment or as self-expression, also to tell stories?
It's both, for sure. Like, I think it's really naive to think that a game has to be one or the other. Any sort of interactive program that you can quote-unquote play technically makes it a game, but it doesn't necessarily have to be for entertainment. It could be to tell a story, and there are stories you can only tell through interactive means that you can't do through, like, a movie or something. But, of course, there are still games that are made just to entertain and just to have fun. It's both.
What's your favorite level and your favorite piece of music
from Gex Enter the Gecko, except for Dragnet?
Of course you're not letting me pick In Dragnet, because of course it's the best song of the whole freaking game. I really like the title screen music of Gex 2. It's just really relaxing, it makes really good background noise. I've used it as a background music in a lot of Nitro Rad videos. Favorite level though, probably the horror levels. That first horror level is really fun. I like that one a lot.
Are there any videos you regretted making?
Well, like, there's always videos that I would do differently now, because as I get older, my views on the subject matter changes, and there's always new things I learn that I think could really change the way I see something, or the way I would explain something. The Silent Hill videos are a good example of that, the original 4, but there's nothing I've ever put out that I stopped and thought I shouldn't have done that. There's nothing I've regretted doing. If I did, I would probably delete it, but I've never deleted a video, because that just hasn't happened so far.
Who's your favorite film director?
Martin Scorsese, man. Most of my favorite movies are all by him, like Goodfellas, Cape Fear, The Departed. I really love his work.
Hey James, I noticed you didn't touch up too much on this in your Super Mario Odyssey video, but what do you think of the Cappy dive jump mechanic?
Honestly, at first I thought it made the game a little bit too easy. Like, every time there was a more ambitious jump, I felt like, oh, this is just a solution to it every single time. But I started not feeling that way on my second playthrough. I realized that there's a lot of even trickier stuff you can do with it. So I think it is a really cool mechanic. And it's not too hard to pull off either. It's just one of those cool things where, like, when you figure out how to do it, it's like, oh, you can do this, and it makes, like, a lot of jumps, like, a lot more interesting and more fun to do.
I'm wondering what your favorite part of Hotel Dusk is.
Definitely the puzzles in that game. I love how most of them use the hardware in a really interesting way. Like, sometimes you have to close the DS and then push, like, the shoulder buttons or something, or you have to really think about, like, the DS as the object you're interacting with. Sometimes you do some cool stuff with the touchscreen. I really liked all of the cool puzzles in that game.
When you critique games, you often critique the design of them, how they're structured and all that, when a lot of other reviewers just say, oh, I don't like this, I like this. And the actual content of the game, are you intending to purposely look at the design?
I think what you're asking is, like, do I purposely look at that? Yeah, of course. It's important to look at both things, so I try my best to look at the bigger structure. I mean, some games it doesn't really stand out as much as others, but I do try to look at that as much as I can.
What's your least favorite video that you've made?
Probably the first video ever put out on the channel, the top 10 games 2013. The video's a piece of garbage and I hate it.
Sup, Nitro Rad. Just always wanted to know, what's your favorite sex move? And if that's too much for you, then just like some general sex tips, man.
Why would you ask me this?
What's your favorite Rhythm Heaven minigame?
The one where you're the lumberjacks and you're cutting the logs, because those squiggly cat guys make me laugh every time I play it.
Let's say you were cursed to die at 500 years old. No matter what you did, you couldn't die until your exact date of birth at 500 years old. What would you do with the extra time?
If I had that much time to live, I would just stop doing platformers. I would do every GameCube game. Like, that would be enough time to complete a full collection of GameCube games. I'd do every PS2 games. That's like 5 times the amount of time people get to live, let alone be an adult. So yeah, I would just I'd do video on every game I possibly could. I'd also finally play all the Yakuza games because the games are really long.
Would you ever consider doing a comparison video between the Resident Evil and Silent Hill games?
I don't really think there's much to compare. Like, they're both survival horror games on the PS1 with tank controls, but other than that, they are really different kinds of games. So no, not really.
We know you're a big fan of Persona 5, but could you tell us what your favorite dungeon was?
I really like the Egyptian palace. There's a lot of personas and demons that were from, like, Egyptian mythology in there. I got Anubis in my party at that point, and that was dope because Anubis is my favorite Egyptian god. I really liked the music there. I really liked the that whole arc with what was it called, Alibaba. That was a super good part of the game.
Fellow Canadian, I'd like to know, what's your favorite Canadian-made game you've ever played?
Deus Ex Human Revolution. That is a Canadian-made game. It was made by Eidos Montreal in Quebec. I think they did a fantastic job of revitalizing the Deus Ex franchise in a way that was both true to the original game while also being accessible to new players, which is what I was when I first played it. So yeah, Human Revolution, one of my favorite games ever, and it's Canadian.
What's a video game that you just absolutely hate? Thanks.
This is an obvious choice, but there's no game I hate more than Bubsy 3D. I will never play that game again. What I usually do, when I'm done a video on a game, I'll usually delete a lot of the B-roll to make hard drive space, but Bubsy 3D is the only game I've never deleted any of the files. Like, it's taken up 80 gigs on my hard drive. It's worth it, because that means I will never have to play that game again for footage.
What's on Nitro Rad's cutting room floor other than bloopers?
The only thing I can think of other than bloopers would be like the TXT files, like the notes I jot down as I play the games, because sometimes I'll jot down stuff that I don't end up using in the video because I thought it was either insignificant or not really worth mentioning, just like a little tidbit here and there that I thought I could maybe use later that I never ended up using. One example I got here is the Pac-Man World 3 video. I wrote down clip 6, minute 55 seconds. The sound for getting health pickup sounds like the Ubisoft logo. Sometimes I'll write down stuff like that and then just end up thinking like, nah, I'm not going to bother mentioning that because it's just a stupid, insignificant thing.
What was the worst technical difficulty you have ever had making an episode?
Oh my lord, the Silent Hill 4 video. I had to make that video twice, from scratch, like even replaying the entire game a second time, because the first time I rendered it, when it was rendering, my hard drive of my laptop crashed, and that was before I had external hard drives to record footage to instead. So when my laptop's hard drive broke, I lost everything. I lost the editing files, I lost all of the script, I lost all my narration, all the video clips of me talking about the game, I lost all of the video clips of the game. I had to replay through the game, I had to rewrite the script, and I had to redo everything. It took me like a week and a half to do that, and that was years ago. Ever since, I was like, okay, I need to invest in hard drives. I now record stuff all to external hard drives. I don't save anything to the hard drive that my OS is running off of. That's a horrible idea. I learned that the hard way in college. Don't do what I did.
Have you ever played a game that's like helped you get over like anxiety or like a depressional moment, or just like makes you feel like happier every time like you play? It just gives you a big old grin on your face.
I don't really have a specific example per se, but I find games that are good at pulling me out of like some sort of negative funk are games that are somewhat repetitive, but you feel like you're accomplishing something. You're like achieving a bunch of check marks on a list. You're doing thing after thing after thing, and you're just getting lots and lots of things done. You're working towards like that 100% completion. Assassin's Creed Origins is a really good example of this. That's not like a game that pulled me out of something like that. I can't think of any specific times that happened, but that's a game where it's like, oh, you have all the strongholds to do, you have all the this to do, you explore all the pyramids, you gotta find all the treasure chests, do all the side missions, stuff like that. You just have a big list of stuff to do, and I feel like plowing through all of it really helps take my mind off of things and just helps reel me back into reality where I'm like, yeah, okay, I feel better after just feeling like I got some stuff done, even if it was just inside a video game.
I'm wondering if you've ever gotten a game from a fan before, like made by one of your fans. I'm working on an RPG Maker game myself, and I'd love for you to check it out or get a demo out to you when it's done. As soon as I get it out, I'd love to get it to you because your constructive criticism is so helpful.
I have a lot of people send me their RPG Maker games, like a lot, like so many, it's hard to even try to reply to all of the emails. Sometimes I do try to take the time. If I'm not doing anything at that time, I will maybe play a bit of it and give them some constructive feedback on it. So yeah, by all means, if you have something you want to send my way, email it to me. Maybe I can try to check it out and give you some feedback, but again, I can't make any promises because this happens with a lot of people, and I do try my best to respond to all of them, but yeah. You may as well shoot it my way, see what happens.
What was the hardest video for you to make on Nitro Rad? And if not on Nitro Rad, on Garanicore?
Again, Bubsy 3D is an obvious answer because, like, getting through that game was incredibly difficult, and there was a point in time where I thought I might not even be able to do it, but I tanked through it till the end. The only time I felt production of a video was somewhat difficult was probably the Cory in the House and Drake and Josh videos. Like, that required, or the intro at least to Cory in the House, that required a lot of After Effects work. It was like, so many hours went into that, and it wasn't really difficult as much as it was time-consuming, but it was difficult to do that on a timely basis and be like, okay, I need to get this done and out on time for April 1st. I always want the April Fool's videos to be ambitious and stuff like that, so that was definitely a challenge for me to tackle. As for Garanicore, same deal, just very VFX focused videos. The biggest one was the Dunn's Christmas Party, the latest one. That's every year I make a film for my friend Dunn's Christmas Party. It's a bunch of inside jokes just for all of everyone at the party to watch and laugh at. But I tried to do a lot of VFX for the latest one. Oh my god, some of those VFX were hard to pull off, hard to figure out what to do. There's a Persona 5 fight scene that was like really challenging to figure out. A big shout out to Robot Brush, that's his Twitter, @RobotBrush, Lashman. That guy offered to do some VFX for it for free. I offered to pay him, he was like, no! And I was like, oh, okay, well thank you so much. He helped with the lightsaber effects in the No More Heroes scene. That was something I was having a lot of trouble with myself, and it was taking so long, and he just plowed through it all, sent me back stuff that was way better than what I could do. I'm like, oh my god, thank you so much, man. So yeah, that Christmas video, that was definitely very challenging.
We meet again. I have a good one for you. What is your favorite Mega Man game from the classic series?
Mega Man 9. That's my favorite Mega Man game. I mean, that's from the classic series, 1 through 11, but if we're not counting ones that were made, like, in modern days, probably 2.
What would you say is your favorite Sonic spin-off?
Sonic Spinball. I used to play that a lot as a kid, even though it's not super great, but it was a really interesting idea.
Which 3 games would you like to see remade for modern systems and why?
The original Deus Ex. That is such a hard game to get into because of how dated it is in so many areas. I think a remake, streamlining a lot of that stuff could be really freaking cool. Mario 64, I would love to see a HD remake of that with like Mario Odyssey graphics, but restructuring the game a lot to address a lot of the problems I have with that game. There's some pretty sucky levels in that game, like Tiny Huge Island. That level sucks. When you're big, it's so easy just to get bonked off the stage and have to do everything all over again. I hate that level. I don't think they should remove those levels, but rework them to be a lot less bullshitty. I think that would be awesome. And maybe Metal Gear Solid 3, like a full-on HD remake of that, but make it more ambitious. Like add a lot of stuff from Metal Gear Solid 5, make the environments even more open-ended. I think that would be extremely cool.
If you could revive a big rate platforming mascot, think Vex or Haven, and give them a competent team and AAA budget, who would you choose?
A couple months ago, I remember you posted some pictures of a conductor cosplay you made that came out really cool. I was wondering if you're working on any other cosplays right now, or if you had anything in mind you wanted to make, any dream cosplay, maybe something like...
That's really cool so far. I'm assuming you made that yourself, the Lucario costume. The one I have, it was like a Lucario mascot costume I got off Alibaba. I did a Kickstarter for it. It's for a video that my friends and I wanted to make. Yeah, it sucks, and that one you've got going on looks really cool. I don't really do cosplay that much. The conductor was kind of one I thought of doing, and I thought that was a lot of fun doing that. But if there was like one cosplay costume I would do that I would like freaking love to do incredibly well, that I just don't have the talent to do it, it would be Adam Jensen from Deus Ex Human Revolution. Like the robotic arms, the sunglass visor, and like all the augmentation looking stuff. Oh, if I could somehow do that, if I somehow had the budget, time, and experience, I would totally do that.
What is the title that you have played the most?
The one game with more hours put into it than any other game for me is probably Metal Gear Solid 4. When I first got my PS3 when I was in 9th grade, that was the only game I had for it, and I loved the crap out of it, and I replayed it so many freaking times. I've probably beat that game more than any other game. Either that, or, again, like I just said, Deus Ex Human Revolution. I beat that game so freaking many times in high school. Oh, man.
Sup, bro? Just wondering, what's the hypest controller you got? What's your favorite game controller, dog? I like the GameCube Micro Con. It's from Mad Cats, bruh. Get some.
Dude, you are a freaking cartoon character, and I love it. Like, this is like a character we do a Garanicor, the way you're like... Man, that was hilarious. Thank you so much for that. My favorite controllers are, like, currently probably the DualShock 4. I always felt the DualShock was just, like, the most all-around, most functional and competent controller, and, you know, the DS4 is the latest iteration of it. I also really like the Switch Pro controller. Having those gyros built in, really handy for aiming stuff, making, like, those fine-tune adjustments, especially in, like, games like Breath of the Wild. Though I wish these shoulder buttons were analog and not just... digital. I don't know if that's the right wording for that, but yeah. But probably the hypest controllers I got like those gold Wii controllers. I got the gold classic controller that came with the remake of GoldenEye, which I thought the game sucked, so I sold it, but I kept the controller. I got the gold Wii remote. This is stuck together. I got the gold Wii remote that came with Skyward Sword Limited Edition, and I got the gold nunchuck that you can only get with Club Nintendo. Like this is the real hard one to get, as far as I know. But yeah, got the gold Wii stuff. That's like the only, like, it's limited edition controllers I have, is like those 3 Wii ones. But yeah. Alright, I think that's all of them. I tried my very best to get every single one in there. If yours didn't show up, as far as I know, I got them all. So if yours didn't show up, it either got lost in file transfers or something. I mean, like last time I thought I got every single one, but there's a couple people that told me that they didn't get it, so I'm just paranoid. I didn't get some people, but I'm pretty sure I got every question. But yeah, that's all of them. Thank you guys so much for sending in your questions. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun answering them all. Yeah. See you guys later. I don't have an ending to this video, so I'm just gonna